Hey everyone, this is Cholera. I'm with Klazart, and we're doing the semifinals of the OSL, the Batoo OSL. This was played earlier today in Korea. Bisu versus Fantasy, a battle between the absolute dominant Protoss of today. Well, actually, I don't know if he's absolutely dominant. Stork is up there too. And Fantasy, who came back against Luxury despite being down 1-0 and won in that best of 3 in the round of 8. But Bisu has just torn apart Best. And of course, recently in the GOM TV Classic, he tore apart Jangbi, and now he's going to be facing his teammate once again, another teammate. This is going to be Bisu versus Fantasy, both from SKT1. I can't wait.
Yeah, this is going to be huge, and SKT1, considering that they seem to be consistently, you think SKT1 should be a shoo-in to actually win the whole Pro League, considering how consistently their players are performing in the individual leagues. But often we know how difficult it can be for players to keep up the performances in several leagues simultaneously. But we've already had an SKT1 versus SKT1 matchup in Bisu versus Best, and now it's Bisu versus Fantasy, and these guys are gonna have to just take each other down because only one can progress, and that's the nature of competitive gaming, and that's the nature of StarCraft. But I'm really looking forward to this. In my mind, I'm going to be a little bit controversial and go ahead and say it. I think Bisu is probably the best Protoss player to ever have played StarCraft in the history of StarCraft. I think he edges out Stork in that category just about. Even though Stork has been really consistent as well lately, I think overall Bisu is a prodigy. He's a once in a generation player, and I don't think Stork is that, and I don't think Fantasy is that either. But prodigies can lose, and we'll see what happens. This is going to be on Chupung-Ryeong set 1, and the winner of this is going to be going to the OSL finals.
Yeah, I mean, Bisu has certainly, had his ups and downs in recent years, but, so usually his downs are not very down. That's the best thing about him. Even when he's doing not necessarily 100% for Bisu, he's still winning things. And, he did slip up a little bit in the beginning parts of this season. Remember, in the MSL, the start of the MSL, he was a reigning gold medalist. He was a reigning champion. He lost in the round of 32. And he lost technically in the round of 36 in the OSL also, but because of Backho hurting his back, there was a special best of 12, well, not best of 12, but 12-person round robin tournament to fill his one spot, and Bisu managed to win that. And since then, though, he's been absolutely on fire. I actually don't think he's lost any games since getting into the round of 16, or rather since breaking out of the round of 36. I don't think he's lost any games. He beat Best 2-0, and previously I think he beat whoever he was playing. Just 2-0 also, so or in the group stage, actually it was a weird group thing. Yeah, I think he was a 3-0 then or something like that. But anyway, we're going to be seeing these two players battle out, and I am going to also say that Bisu is a huge favorite in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Bisu at the bottom left-hand corner in purple at the 7 o'clock position, and Fantasy at the top right-hand corner in teal at the 1 o'clock position. I mean, Bisu, as you said, Bisu's been playing like he's got that hunger that new pro gamers have when they first get into the scene, and when they start, the way Savior was when he first burst onto the scene as IPX Zerg, and Bisu's managed to get a scout into Fantasy base, just doing a little bit of harass. It'll be interesting if he tries and steal the gas. Fantasy just now getting enough minerals to put that gas down, so he manages to get that down, and he's going to be forceful and SCV off the line just to fight that probe off. But yeah, Bisu has a lot of hunger because he hasn't actually made it to an OSL final yet. So that's one of the few things. I mean, he's won, as you said, the GOM TV Intel Classic. He's won MSLs. He's beaten the best players, but he hasn't achieved the OSL victory. So that's something that he's got to be hungry for to get through to the finals and win the whole thing. Fantasy, on the other hand, made it to the finals last time, and he wants to show that he can go all the way this time, and he's not going to let Bisu stand in his way. And you're right, Bisu is probably the overwhelming favorite, but for me, the two X factors are the maps, which is Chupung-Ryeong, hugely Terran favored at the moment. Statistics 14-8 in favor of Terran versus Protoss in this iteration of the map, and that's going to be played twice in the map pool in this best of 5 should it get to game 5. And obviously we've also got Boxer on Fantasy's team, who is the other major X factor, who's Fantasy's mentor and has been coaching it. I'm sure boxers derived and helped Fantasy to derive some creative builds to challenge Bisu's marvelous technical skills.
Absolutely, and I would say the thing about Bisu's Pro Ross versus Terran, I'd say that it's his most conventional of his three matchups. His Pro Ross versus Zerg, obviously, it now is convention, but it's only because he created a paradigm shift in the whole game, the whole fabric of Pro Ross versus Zerg, of course, with the Bisu build. So, that's certainly unconventional in that sense. His Pro Ross versus Pro Ross is also brilliant, even though sometimes he does over-rely on DTs. He hasn't done that recently, and he is just so good with it. I mean, it's not creative play. He definitely tries to surprise players. Like, for example, against Best in the second game that he won, he went for a fast expand, like after just 2 gates, and Best just couldn't deal with it. He wasn't able to beat Bisu with his initial push, and he just lost. And Best is technically the best, or statistically the best PvP player out there. But against Terran, I'd say his main strength is just his precision play. He doesn't necessarily have to go for the biggest tech build, but he is looking like he's going to go for a robotics facility now after 1 gate. He's also got goon range done. Meanwhile, Fantasy has gone for a fast expand, so we'll see what happens here in terms of Bisu, whether he's going to go for observers or for reavers.
Yeah, Bisu just sending the Dragoon up the side just to try and catch, I think, anything from Fantasy, or just maybe to try and scout around the back. Fantasy is sending an SCV out around the back as well, and that's probably going to run into that Dragoon, but he should be able to get past it. And it looks like that that Fantasy, that SCV of Fantasies is going to get intercepted by Bisu's Dragoon. But yeah, that's the big difference between the very great players, between what I consider to be the S-class players and the normal pro gamers. They all play really well, great StarCraft. They are all have good macro and micro, but it's the adaptability, it's the ability to change on the fly to different situations, to adapt to your opponent's tactics, and to have that game sense. That's something that you can't train. You either have it or you don't, and that's something that players like Bisu, Savior, Boxer, all the great players have possessed that, and players like Fantasy have to show that they possess it, and Bisu indeed putting out the robotic support base, so we are going to be seeing Reavers coming out from Bisu. Fantasy has his command center up, and it'll be interesting whether or not Fantasy has anticipated this, because he did have that SCV in Bisu's base for a while, and he did see that Bisu hadn't gone for an expand at that point, so that might have given him a little bit of a clue, but I'm pretty sure he didn't see the robotics facility go down, because Bisu managed to usher the SOE away in time. Now Fantasy just pushing out with a couple of siege tanks and marines, and it looks like he's just about ready to get his command center in place, and he is now lifting that command center over. So this is going to be critical here. Bisu's going to be coming in with the Reaver harass, obviously, and it's all going to be down to how well Fantasy defends it.
Yeah, I mean, Bisu obviously has great Reaver control, great shuttle Reaver harassment. Second, I would controversially say that Stork is slightly better, but perhaps only in heads-up engagements. I think it's very close, though. I think he and Bisu, hands down, have the best Protoss versus Terran harassment, in terms of Reavers at least. Jangbi, I would say, overall, Protoss versus Terran is statistically the best, and he actually just has amazing storms. That's his specialty. And here we're seeing Bisu kill off another scouting SCV, so critically he hasn't allowed Fantasy to see his expansion. The fact that actually that his expansion's a little bit late could have told Fantasy a lot too, that Bisu might be going for tech, and Fantasy doesn't look like he has an engineering bay yet. Oh no, never mind, he does have an engineering bay, it's floating. So he does have turrets. I was going to be worried for a second that he would be completely caught off guard, but it doesn't look like he is going to be that caught off guard. In fact, it looks like he suspects some kind of drop, either DTs or Reavers, because he's got a nice perimeter defense and he's got tanks and marines wandering around his main.
Yeah, Fantasy is completely expecting Bisu to come in with a shuttle here, and that's going to be advantage to Fantasy, because once you can anticipate what your opponent is doing, a large part of an attack like this is the element of surprise. Bisu's going to have to find some sort of avenue. Fantasy seems to have got his base really well set up in defense. Fantasy dropping the Zealot, and the Zealot taking a hit from the siege tank. Zealot not able to get in range of the siege tank. One Reaver shot hits the siege tank, but the Zealot gets taken down, and the Reaver now being pushed behind the mineral line, and the supply depot. Genius positioning of that supply depot by Fantasy, absorbing the Reaver shot and protecting the SCVs. I don't think I've seen that before. That's really clever. Fantasy has left nowhere for Bisu to actually drop that Reaver at his natural expo to be able to do any sort of economic damage to him. He wasn't even be forced to pull his SCVs out. Brilliant play by Fantasy. Bisu's now got an observer coming in as well to provide some support in terms of visual range. But Bisu's now got his Stargate up. He's now putting the fleet beacon down, so Bisu going for a fast switch to carriers, but he hasn't done any damage to Fantasy's economy. This is insane by Bisu. He's putting the fleet beacon down, but he's done no damage to Fantasy's economy. This is just crazy. I'm not sure what Bisu's thinking here, Cholera.
I'm thinking he feels like he's behind, and he is certainly behind, and he's going to try to correct that. And one of the weaknesses of the fast expand build is that you don't get your academy out very soon at all. Mainly, you just want to get tanks out, and you want to get your turrets out, and you don't get an academy, you don't get scans. So Fantasy might not get the scan off on time. In fact, he might not even see it before it just comes on him. Two base carriers here, and this is a Stork specialty. In fact, against 4GG, he employed it very well. The last time I've seen it really well done in the World Cyber Games qualifiers. I actually haven't watched the Stork versus 4GG series in the MSL yet, so I'm not sure if he went for carriers also in that series, but I know he did win it. But anyway, he is very good with two base carriers, but Bisu, I have not seen go carriers in a very long time. In fact, I just haven't seen carriers, period, for a long time. I mean, the last time I saw it, well, I guess Jangbi did it against Nada was the last time I saw it, but before then, it must have been months and months. So, I mean, this is going to be a really interesting game here, it seems. You know, Bisu is going to have to rely on the element of surprise.
Yeah, Bisu's surprise didn't work the first time around. I suppose he wasn't really that much of a surprise with the Reaver harass. But I think when you're going to do that sort of thing, when you're going to make that switch to carrier, I don't think it's just enough. And the armory is going up for fantasy, so he senses this.
Right.
Maybe he's just putting that armory up to get upgrades, but nevertheless, it is going to allow him to get some Goliaths out. I mean, for a Terran player, it's handy to have a couple of Goliaths anyway, because when you do make that push, you want to have those Goliaths out just to ward away the shuttles. So a couple of Goliaths are always handy, but he has put the and it looks like if you look on the minimap, the red blob, he might actually have seen that, although that's probably from before. So I think he might have actually, you're right, I think he's actually seen the carriers. So it's looking pretty bad for Bisu in this first matchup.
Yeah, I mean, what Fantasy wants to do right now is push up as far as possible, and then when Bisu moves out with his air, he probably wants to go in for a ground assault, since he does have an overwhelmingly stronger ground army than Bisu does. Now, Bisu, like you're saying, didn't do any damage at all, and usually you go two base carriers when you've done some damage with a Reaver drop. Otherwise, you really can't follow up, but however, I guess he feels like he has to respect Fantasy enough to concede, you know, the advantage, and wow, Fantasy cementing his economic advantage by killing off more probes here. Very nice harassment by Fantasy, getting about 4 or 5 there. And yeah, Fantasy knows this is coming absolutely 100%. He's getting Charon boosters, and he's going to be, you know, just completely prepared for Bisu here. Bisu just has a matter of seconds here to do some damage to these tanks and maybe get one push out, but I think that's going to be it. Afterwards, he's just going to be overwhelmed by Goliaths.
Yeah, Bisu's just not in the position to try and get that overwhelming critical mass, and Vulture's just going down towards Bisu's position at the 5 o'clock position. Looks like Bisu was trying to set up an expansion there to get some economy going, and the only advantage Bisu has is the maneuverability of this cannon. And once again, Vulture's coming in behind Bisu's mineral line and picking off those probes, and Bisu can ill afford this. I mean, he's obviously going carriers, he needs all the economy that he can get, and looks like Bisu's chosen to bypass Fantasy's ground units and go straight for Fantasy's main. So Bisu attacking Fantasy, he's going to bring the shuttle in with the carrier support to take out the turret. The shuttle drops a Reaver and a Dragoon. The Goliath gets taken out. Reaver shot. Fantasy quickly bringing his Goliath back to try and defend his main. Another Reaver shot takes out a few SCVs. Fantasy not moving some of his SCVs away from his mineral line. Bisu managed to do some damage to his economy, but now that Reaver is going to get taken down, and the Dragoon is going to get taken down as well, so this attack is going to come to an end. It's just a question of whether Bisu's done enough damage. Even if he's hurt Fantasy's economy a little bit, I'm not sure he's really done enough damage, because he hasn't really been able to get his economy going much better, and he's probably lost just as many probes as SCVs that he's killed in that attack.
Absolutely, Klazart. I mean, I see it's going to be very, very hard for him to come back, especially with that number of Goliaths that we just saw. And he's going to get +1 attack also very soon. Bisu obviously does not have +1 attack for air yet. I didn't even see him upgrading it, so he needs to get it done. He needs to have already gotten it done. I think it's already too late for Bisu. If Fantasy can micro at all, he should be able to win this. Just take a look at that giant metal army here. I think it's going to be very effective against Bisu. Bisu just certainly didn't have the element of surprise at all. I'm a little surprised he didn't choose to hide those Stargates somewhere. Maybe that could have made a difference if he had hidden it at the bottom left of his base or something, but he put it in such an obvious position that it's really the first scan location for a Terran player. So Bisu got scanned, Fantasy got prepared, and Bisu now trying to go on from the left, but Fantasy is just going to take the advantage of this opportunity. He might even get the carrier here. He is going to get the carrier, wow. And Fantasy just, you know, he's just going to be able to roll into Bisu's base, I think, very soon.
Yeah, Bisu's now coming against ground forces as well, but he's heavily outnumbered. Those Dragoons are dying a horrible death, and they've just become surrounded, and it's a big turkey Dragoon
Wow.
shoot. It's just it's just like shooting Dragoons in a barrel for Fantasy, and that's going to be GG. So against all the odds, well, you can't say all the odds because this is a map that's supposed to favor Terran players, but Fantasy looks like he's pulled out the first win in the first blood, and that's going to do wonders for his confidence. And Bisu's going to be up against it now, and Bisu's going to have to pull it back, and now Bisu's coming in with the carriers, but he really just doesn't have the amount of carriers he needs to really be able to do any damage. He doesn't have any ground forces to supplement his carriers either. He just doesn't have enough Dragoons or anything,
No.
and Bisu finally GG's. So well played by Fantasy, and really, Fantasy didn't do anything special there. He just played a standard
No,
game,
he
one
didn't.
fac into expand, and I guess the only clever thing really he did was that supply depot where he prevented, and I guess what he really did well was just he anticipated Bisu's maneuvers.
Yeah, I mean, this is the exact opposite of what I was predicting. Not sure if I said in the beginning of the match, but I expected Bisu to play standard and Fantasy to play creatively. Fantasy, I would think is an underdog, and instead they did the exact opposite. Fantasy went totally standard, and Bisu went totally non-standard, going for the Reaver drop, which failed, and then going to two-base carriers. So I wonder, how this is going to affect the metagame here. Bisu, you really can't tell when he's looking concerned, but I'd say he looks slightly concerned right now, just ever so slightly. But anyway, we're going to be moving on to game 2 right now. Hope you guys enjoyed game 1. GG.